Our society has countless images, ideas, and stereotypes about change agents, people who help an organization transform by improving business process and interpersonal interactions. Whether influencing fashion, business, art, entertainment, science, politics, or law, these change agents have and continue to positively impact today's society on so many levels. And today, we are proud to share the story of these business owners, coaches, innovators, and thought leaders from various industries who are eager to educate, inspire, and motivate you. This is Our Voices on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Welcome to Our Voices, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation. My name is Natasha Nurse. I'm the owner and co-founder of Dressing Roommate, co-host of Woke and Free, and the lifestyle editor of Plus Model Magazine. And this show is focused on highlighting the amazing work of powerful change agents who have a great message to share with the world. And today I'm really excited to be speaking with social entrepreneur and founder of Minority Millennials Incorporated, Daniel Lloyd. So who is this great guy? He is, like I said, a social entrepreneur with over 8 years of experience in helping with the development or creation of nonprofit enterprises that focus on solving targeted problems within society. Presently in his capacity as Associate Director of Long Island Citizens for Community Values, a 501(c) organization that's been committed to protecting Long Island's children and families in the digital age for nearly 25 years. Daniel designs solution-based programs that work to protect children and families in the digital age. In the fall of 2017, he founded Minority Millennials Incorporated, a 501(c)(3) non-for-profit organization that's currently bridging the gap between policy and culture. Its mission focuses on tackling disempowering narratives around minority communities and mobilizing millennials with the tools needed to become the next generation of change makers in public policy. And without further ado, Daniel, how are you?
Hey, I'm blessed. I'm very excited to be on the show tonight. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So first off, I just, kudos to all of your accomplishments. So many things you've done at such a young age, really. I'd love for you to just kind of get everyone up to speed on Our Voices to share just how did you get into wanting to be a social entrepreneur and what drives you to do this?
Well, to be very honest, I didn't have aspirations to be a social entrepreneur. I always was into sports. So growing up, I wanted to be a basketball player. I went to college. I only made it to Division III, but in college is kind of like where I got my feet wet with just social activations. I went to Rutgers University in Newark, New Jersey, and I got involved in a couple of campaigns for the mayor's race, and it just piqued my interest. And I've always had sort of like a natural inkling to just help with certain problems that either my family members were having or different people in my community having coming from wine dance. And then I learned a little bit about policy while in Newark with regards to the mayor and the campaign and just different problems that they were tackling. And I started my first company in a record label in Newark in the record business. So it was completely different. Long story short, that business failed. And so I had all this entrepreneurial experience, and I also had this newfound love for politics. I was trying to figure out how to put both of them together and what really was my passion. And that's where the idea of a social entrepreneur comes into. And it's actually something that's not something, I didn't make that up. That's actually a Forbes-defined thing, and I didn't know that. And so once I found that out, I was like, oh, it was like my aha moment. It's like that's how, that's really my purpose, is to utilize my skills and my experiences and my failures, but then to combine that to solutions within the community, which is really my passion and I think my purpose at this point.
I love it. Absolutely. You just kind of fell into this and you're like, that's who I am. I'm a fixer, but there's another name for it. Very cool. I like it.
I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'd love to hear a little bit more about how Minority Millennials Incorporated came to be.
Yeah, so real quick, in 2016, I moved back to Long Island. I was gone for close to 10 years. When I graduated high school, I went to Jersey, came back in 2016. But when I moved back, I quickly saw all this development that was going on in my neighborhood of Wine Dance, with Wine Dance Rising, and just so much growth was going on. But I noticed that there's a lack of my peers. None of my peers, none of my friends, my childhood friends, no one that I really grew up with was involved with Wine Dance Rising, was involved with any of the developments or the new projects that were going on in Long Island. and I couldn't figure it out. And that's when I realized that there was just a lack of interest into the future of Long Island and all these beautiful things that were being developed. And we really sat down and figured out how can we get more people interested in policy and what does policy even mean. A lot of people were excited to get into politics because of the Donald Trump situation with regards to the 2016 election, but no one could really figure out how to bridge that interest into local policy, specifically here in Suffolk County, and really how to get that into the faces of minorities and minority millennials. And so we tried to figure out, can we keep it, define it to who we are? And that's really what it is. You know, I'm a minority millennial by that definition, my age and my race. And a lot of my peers and my friends are as well. And that's how we came up with the organization Minority Millennials. And our mission is to represent minorities and millennials in any policies that impact our future here in Long Island.
Okay, that absolutely makes sense. I, too, agree and fall within that category of being a minority and being a millennial. So when I first met you, that's why I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have you on Our Voices, because it sounds so compelling and so new and refreshing what you're doing. And so I'd love for you to share with the audience, what are the biggest challenges currently being faced for the minority millennials on Long Island, in the New York area, or even like across the nation?
Yeah, I mean, well, just let's say focus on Long Island, because it's something that's happening across the nation, but minorities are going to be the new majority by 2060 in the United States. But on Long Island, it's going to be even sooner, by 2050. There's a report by the Urban League State of Black Long Island that says by 2050, 2 in 3 people in Long Island will be people of color.
Oh, wow.
By definition, that's a minority millennial, because that's who it's going to be. That's going to be us. In 2050, that will be us. We will have families. However, the most underdeveloped generation and demographic is the minority millennial. There's a lot of statistics and a lot of data for millennials on Long Island, but there's not any data or any representation for the minority millennial on Long Island. And that's what we see as one of the biggest disconnects between resources and economic development. There's no minority millennial in any town boards, any local school boards, and there's no minority millennials on the county legislature. So we actually have no representation for this specific demographic and generation, and that's really the biggest challenge right now. Is there's so much conversation and investment into the future of Long Island. However, the future of Long Island is not sitting at the table explaining what they want or what they need.
Okay, wow. And does the average minority millennial understand this, or no? That's kind of a big part of what you have to do, just like getting people aware of understanding the importance of our lack of representation in government and just having a seat at the table.
No, actually, you know, I didn't really I didn't know this until I started researching it. And to be honest with you, a lot of our community leaders don't necessarily know this because it's kind of hidden under the millennial context. Okay. So when people talk about millennials on Long Island, it's all millennials across the board. But brain drain and a lot of other factors really is not marginalized, but a large aspect of that is more of the non-Hispanic white millennials that are able to leave. A lot of minority millennials don't leave Long Island and then don't get the proper resources to kind of get involved in certain job opportunities and board representations. And so a lot of people just bundle up all this demographic into millennials, and that's not who this is directly affecting. Because there are millennials that serve on certain boards, but they're not minority millennials. And so that's not the majority of the future, though. Absolutely. And that's the big disconnect.
Absolutely. Gotcha. You are listening to Our Voices on the voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC. My name is Natasha Nurse, and my guest today is Daniel Lloyd, social entrepreneur and founder of Minority Millennials Incorporated. So that's actually really horrifying. As a minority millennial, that I completely agree with you in the sense that I didn't know how drastic of a situation that is. And I guess what would you say would be the biggest way that you could get this message out to all of us on the island, at least, even if we just take Long Island?
It's really just making the concept of policy more appealing the people that we're trying to get to understand why this is so valuable. When you say policy, everyone thinks of like these boring meetings, which they can be very boring, that are controlled by a certain type of people that no one really has access to and really don't understand the definition of it. So when I break it down and I talk to people, this is what I say. And this is, just very basic. Everyone goes to the city for a nightlife. Everyone goes to Brooklyn or the Bronx for, let's say, the Curl Fest or the Apple Fest or these certain humongous events that don't happen in Long Island. Well, if we wanted to bring, let's say, the Curl Fest, or we wanted to bring a hip-hop festival, or we wanted to bring a certain type of jazz festival or soca to Long Island, how would we actually get that done? That's policy. Because we have to go to our local representatives. We have to get a zoning accordance. We have to get permits. That's all policy-based. If we had people that were of our representation and understood what value we're trying to bring to minority millennials, the future of Long Island, in these positions of influence and power, the communication would be just that much easier to get done. And that's how I really explain it, is more just appealing to it. Well, a very good example of this is just basketball leagues. We did a basketball league in North Amityville, and the community thought we weren't going to be able to have the lights on to 9 p.m. Well, we advocated, and we got the trust of the town, and we were able to get our lights on now at 9 p.m. in North Amityville, one of the roughest neighborhoods on Long Island. But that's a policy initiative. It's very basic, but that just shows you a quick victory of what you can do to get something done that really affects the culture. Because now we have games on Saturday and Sunday nights at 8:30 p.m. where there's an environment of peace and fun that hasn't been here for almost 20 or 30 years.
Wow. Okay, that's incredible.
And that's at a very, very basic level. When we start talking about bigger initiatives, that's when we realize that if it's a type of mini condo or changing zoning laws for a coffee shop or for a lounge and for ownership and weed dispensaries that are coming to Long Island now, we have to be at that table to articulate why we need to make sure that we have percentage of all that ownership that's coming to Long Island, all these new activations.
Absolutely. Now, when you are out in the community and you're kind of getting across this message, do you face naysayers or people who are like, well, what's the point of me really doing anything? What does one person have? Does one person really have a chance at making a change? Because I think that that's a common argument that I've heard within our community, just on various different things. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Honestly, I haven't gotten much pushback.
Okay.
I think it's because of the personnel on our team. We definitely make sure that we try not to stir the pot as far as what we're saying.
Yeah.
I've noticed that sometimes with a lot of, in quotation, like young professional organizations and certain things, we forget, and this is me being very transparent right now, is that in our communities and really across the nation now, the biggest genre of music is hip-hop. Culture is a huge influence on our teens and the next generation. And what that really means is that the heartbeat of a lot of our communities, believe it or not, is the idea of the streets. I'm from Wyandanch and, North Amityville and these different communities. And so we're not actually going into the heartbeat of these streets and making the policy much more clarified, much more practical, and defining in a way where everyone understands it. We're not really going to create change. And so we're going directly at people that have influence in their own communities, and then those people are going back into their relationships, into their different cohorts, and explaining, like, this is something that's dope, and it's not a stuffy meeting or room where we're just saying we're going to get something done. We did 5 events last year, and each event led into growth because it showed action. And we don't really talk too much. We just try to get real simple, basic wins.
Gotcha. Absolutely. You are listening to Our Voices. My name is Natasha Nurse. More with my guest, Daniel Lloyd, social entrepreneur and founder of Minority Millennials Incorporated, next on the voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC.
I'm a college student and could use advice about my student loan.
I had to leave school, but I still have student loans to pay back.
I graduated and got the help I needed to pay back my loan in full.
We're the NFCC, the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, with member offices nationwide that provide comprehensive financial reviews and student loan counseling. Call 877-406-6322 or visit us online at studentloanhelp.org.
Welcome back to Our Voices on the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Natasha Nurse, and my guest today is Daniel Lloyd, social entrepreneur and founder of Minority Millennials Incorporated. Oh, wow, Daniel, the time is going, and I have so many questions. Okay, so my next question for you would be, when it comes to making social change, like you, obviously, that was a testimony for you, but for others who are maybe currently listening and they're in college and like you, they're very passionate and dedicated to change and wanting to see things be different. What would you say is like the step one for them to take to try to figure out how to make a foray into this space as being a social entrepreneur like you?
I think it's really taking a personal reflection on their life. So what is a problem that's actually, what problems are they saying they're having in their personal life? A lot of times when we have our meetings, you know, obviously it's the three bigs, right? It's student loans, it's home ownership, and maybe criminal justice reform. But that's across the board. If you really want to see how you can get involved in something real fast, ask yourself, what is the biggest problem in your life right now? You know what? And if you can pinpoint that, then we can help you dissect of how it goes back into a policy initiative or how a policy initiative has affected the problem that you're saying you're having. That can be from someone dealing with their mother's diabetes or someone's dealing with their own diabetes and they can't get access to affordable health care, or someone may be dealing with other sicknesses and they can't get the prescriptions that they need, or they have to get generic prescriptions, or, you know, they can't even go to a Whole Foods because the food stamps are not relevant. That's more of low income. It could be a high income too, whatever it is. It could even be opioid addiction and something that someone's dealing with across the board, which we all know used to be heroin. But it really depends on what that person's specific problem is. And once they can clarify the problems that they're saying they're having, then you take steps into figuring out what organization or what policy is actually affecting that problem. And then you could determine how you want to solve that problem with going either advocating for that organization or going against and protesting that policy.
Okay, and that actually leads perfectly to my next question about resources. So I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I'm a lawyer by trade, so I'm curious, have law schools or graduate schools or even just colleges been a really good resource for you from a recruitment perspective of kind of funneling people into the organization to kind of have a bigger impact in the community? Or what are key resources that have helped you with getting the word out for all the great work that you're doing?
It's funny, the first year in 2018, the past year, no. It's really been more word of mouth and social media.
Okay.
With Instagram. But now that we're getting some traction, there have been, we have a couple of meetings coming up with universities, Stony Brook and Hofstra, and different potential law firms to go over, you know, what is the possible synergy they have with this new demographic that's being represented. Because we're saying that we're not being adequately represented, so we want to partner with a law firm or different agencies to show that this is what we need and this is how we can either help you. And so it's like a balance effect. But, you know, this year we're definitely going to be hitting a lot more schools and going to student organizations and explaining more of how we can be advantageous to the student or to the law firm.
Perfect. Okay. And when it comes to politics, since you mentioned it earlier in the conversation, what would you say, tactfully speaking, of the current day politics and how they're having an effect on current day minority millennials?
Well, to me, the number one biggest thing is obviously student loans. If we're not able to somehow write off our student loans and our tax deductions, or we're not able to lower the cost of education, or we're not able to offsuit our student loans into a prime home mortgage, which is something that we actually proposed to the Suffolk County legislator and is now an official pilot program, then, you know, we're not going to be able to have equity to sustain a middle or upper class or upper middle class, high income household, or even move up into a generation so that we can have a family, and what that even means, and define what that even means in this day and age. We don't have the opportunities that our parents had or our grandparents had because of the concept of education is just not the same.
Yeah.
And so that's all policy related. Universities go up as 1,000% increase since the 70s. That's policy rate. The government can cap the amount of increase is the interest increase on education costs, but they don't.
Interesting.
And so that's something that's directly affecting minority millennials, because we all are told to keep going to schools, and we are. A lot of minorities go to universities now.
Yes.
But how is that affecting us when we graduate? We have a 4-year degree or a 6-year master's degree, and we're not getting a job anymore that our parents told us we would get for $75,000, $80,000. We're working for $35,000 with $40,000 student loan.
Yes. Oh, I wish my student loans were $40,000. That would be a blessing. But talk to any lawyer, and that number, add another zero. And it's just crazy town. But I completely agree. I think that's like the next bubble that's going to burst, because something has to be done. You're completely correct. There's too many of us. I forget what the number was, but I think we have like billions, if not trillions, of student loan debt across this nation. So something absolutely...
Like 15 trillion.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane.
And I was like, well, that just sounds like a fun number, but I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but it will be interesting in the next 5, 10, or even 15 years to see what changes do take place, because there's definitely a need for change. And
also,
go ahead,
real quick, also, even just to piggyback on that, on Long Island is even more specific, because a lot of minorities go to universities, like I said, but then end up still working at retail jobs that pay minimum wage. And the Long Island Index just showed, a 2018 report, that aside from healthcare, retail jobs is still the highest income distributor for people that live on Long Island. So how do you expect to raise a family or to maintain any type of equity when the minimum wage is still $13 an hour on Long Island? And that's for the biggest job industry on Long Island, which is retail. So that's all of our friends that work at Foot Locker or Target, even the manager position. It's still very difficult to sustain.
Very disturbing. Wow. You are listening to Our Voices on the voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC. My name is Natasha Nurse. My guest today is Daniel Lloyd, social entrepreneur and founder of Minority Millennials Incorporated. So Daniel, before we continue, because I definitely could talk to you all day, all night. You have so much really vital information to share, but I do want to make sure that people know how to get in touch with you. So if they're interested in championing you and being a part of Minority Millennials Incorporated, where do they go?
They can follow Minority Millennials on all social platforms. So on Instagram, it's at Minority Millennials, and that's MINORITY Millennials, a little bit of a tongue twister. And that's the same for Facebook as well. If you want to contact me directly, my Instagram is at Danny J. Lloyd, and that's LLOYD. And I'm very responsive on both. We have a team that works for Minority Millennials, so we respond to DMs. And you can email us at info@minoritymillennials.org.
Love it. Okay. Now, are there certain things that you guys as an organization are really focusing and targeting on for 2019?
Absolutely. We have a bunch of activations going on that we're planning right now. One of them is in partnership with the Suffolk County Police Department, Deputy Police Commissioner Risco Lewis, to try to get more minorities to take the police test.
Oh, great.
Specifically minority millennials. But, again, like I said, we don't like to stir the pot. We're not just going to say that it's good for you to take the test. We're actually going to hold a forum and have a conversation about why Black and Latino men and women, but really Black and Latino men, just don't want to be a cop. I think that's a huge disconnect between people, because even, like my family and a lot of our elders keep saying take the police test, but they're not understanding why our brothers and sisters don't want to be a cop.
Yeah.
And I think once we have that conversation, we can all understand why, what's the negative narrative about being a cop. We can convince more people to then take the test, because we got the elephant out of the room. So that's one thing. We're also doing a huge arts and cultural activation. It's going to be the first one of its kind Basically, think of like a Long Island Art Basel.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Right here in Wyandanch, we're shooting it sometime between May and June. And we're also going to be, which is I'm very excited about, is doing a census to get data for all minority millennials that we possibly can. We're going to try to shoot for like 2,500 on Nassau and Suffolk County. How many minority millennials are entrepreneurs? How many minority millennials are homeowners? How many minority millennials are lawyers? Really start getting data for who we are and how we can be better represented on Long Island, because you can't find it anywhere. And the reason why we can't find it is because it's masked under millennials. And the minority millennial is actually different than just a millennial.
Absolutely. And that's super key, because in the age of where you're trying to resonate with a community, the more data you have, the better, right? And that's going to be super valuable. So I applaud you for doing that. That's really, really cool. And then I'd also love for people to learn a little bit more about you personally, if you don't mind. So I have some rapid fire questions, and they're easy. They're not too hard. I'll give you an easy one. Okay. What is your favorite, ultimate favorite book?
Deep Work by Cal Newport. Changed my life.
Deep Work. Okay, I'm writing that down. What is the best way for you to unwind?
Listen to podcasts.
Hey! Very, very cool.
I absolutely love podcasts.
We will be talking, sir. Very nice. Okay. If you weren't doing social entrepreneurship and being the founder of Minority Millennials Incorporated, you would be fill in the blank.
My passion is still music, so something within the music industry, if they let me in.
Yes. Yes. Make a way for yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your favorite quote?
This is going to sound so bad, but heavy is the shoulders that wear the crown.
Oh,
so
interesting.
If you really are trying to put in some work and create something or lead the way with something, there's going to be a lot of pain and a lot of dark moments that you have to go through, and you have to understand that it's just what everyone goes through that's doing their own thing.
Absolutely. And then last question, what is something no one knows about you?
Well, I don't know if anybody knows it, but I definitely grew up with I grew up through the system, so with foster care and whatnot. So I learned a lot at an early age. So
wow,
I don't talk about much.
Yeah, that's a lot. Okay, well, I expect a book then, sir. You are doing such incredible work, and I really just want to thank you for being a guest today on Our Voices. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I hope our audience found you both as informative and inspiring as I did. My name is Natasha Nurse. I'm the host of Our Voices here on 90.3 WHPC. Our show's creative director is Rudy J. Breedy. Visit nccradio.org. That's www.nccradio.org for more information. This will be available as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. Our Voices is powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation on the voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC.